Tonight, a WVW Broadcast Network exclusive. My guest, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and his longtime friend, Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, and national intelligence researcher and author, Mary Fanning. Yes, General Flynn joins us tonight, his first interview since his pardon from President Trump. He speaks for 30 minutes directly to the American people on what he sees coming and what we need to do and what has happened. And then General McInerney comes in with breaking news about the Kraken, what it really is. You're going to be shocked. And then we hear from the lady that broke it all, Mary Fanning, with her co-author, Alan Jones. They broke the story in December of 2015. Folks, it's all coming together, and we get this exclusive tonight, right here at WVW Broadcast Network. The Worldview Weekend Hour begins right now.
WVWTV presents the Worldview Weekend Hour with Brannon Howse. Whether the topic is law, science, government, economics, history, family, social issues, education, or theology, Brannon brings the issues of today into clear focus through the lens of a biblical worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
Good evening and welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for joining us. A very special Friday evening, November 27th broadcast with General McInerney, Mary Fanning, and we'll be joined later by Alan Jones. We're going to cover a lot of very important topics tonight. Hold on just one second. Let's see if this call is. Hello, Brannon Howse. Thank you, General, for joining us. We've just gotten on the air. Let me announce, let me have General McInerney. General McInerney, we have just been joined by a friend of yours. Would you like to introduce our friend to the broadcast audience tonight?
Yes, I would like to, Brannon, to let everybody know that General Mike Flynn is going to join us tonight in the few days that he has been pardoned by the United States, by the President of the United States. It is a great honor for us to have him and for he and I to speak along with Mary and Alan about the treason that has been committed against this administration, this country, and this president. And General Flynn was a key part of that this threat that we are facing today did. So it's an absolute great honor to have you with us, Mike.
Absolutely.
And we must let America know what's happening.
Absolutely. With that, General, I am just going to give you the floor. I know you're on a cell phone, but I'm just going to give you the floor and let you speak to the American people. Thank you for joining us tonight.
So first of all, I want to just say thanks, Tom, for getting a hold of me and asking me to come on tonight. And Brandon, appreciate you connecting me in. I don't know what your audience is or who we're speaking to tonight, but I would tell you what's happening in this country should never happen. And we are going through, there's no doubt in my mind, we're going through a crucible of history. And if we don't correct what it is that's happening right now over the next couple of weeks, then I really hate to even think about what will happen in our country going forward into the latter part of December and certainly into the next month. I do not believe for a second that the country will accept Vice President Biden as the next president based on what we know to be probably the greatest fraud that our country has ever experienced in our history. I mean, what we're seeing, what I'm in right in the middle of it right now, and I will tell you that, first of all, the president has clear paths to victory. They have clear paths to victory, and they actually don't require a lot of courtroom action. What they require is they require a lot of honesty out of elected officials and, frankly, a lot of Americans who are coming forward and telling us their stories. I mean, the hundreds and hundreds of Americans around the country in different states, not just the swing states, but many, many other states that are coming forward with their stories and putting them down on affidavits as witnesses. We had probably 10 or 12 affidavits come in from one particular state today, and because there's been a number of threats to people, these particular patriots, they sent their photos in with their affidavits and said, "Put mine up at the top of the list because I want people to know that I'm not going to be afraid of these people that are threatening our country and our way of life." And so I say all that, and on one hand, and the other hand, as I just described, we have clear paths to victory for this president. And frankly, he's going to win Pennsylvania. He's going to win Arizona. He's going to win Georgia. He's going to win Nevada. He's going to win Michigan. And the other one that he's probably going to pull in is Wisconsin too, because there's a discrepancy in Wisconsin of 130,000 fraudulent ballots that they just found. They just discovered. So there's a lot of things happening, and it's all, to me, it's all positive. I was asked today on a scale of 1 to 10 who will be the next president, and I said 10. It'll be Donald Trump. It'll be President Trump. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind that he won this election hands down in a landslide, probably somewhere between 350 and 400 electoral college votes. What we have seen is and I know this, over the last probably 2 decades and probably longer, I could, give you a little bit of a history lesson in that, but I won't. But over the last couple of decades, what we have seen is a complete shift in how fast I believe that Communist China, in their long-term plan, decided that to sort of move up their plans to become the global superpower, sole global superpower on the planet. And their sort of plan was by about the middle of this century that we're in right now. And I believe during the last 2016 election, when they didn't get the candidate that they needed and the kind of ideology that they saw America moving towards, they were not going to allow 2020 to happen. And so now what we have is this theft with mail-in ballots, the theft with this software, Smartmatic software and these Dominion systems. These are systems that are not owned by this country. They're not owned by this country. They're owned by other. They were introduced into this country. How can we say, as the United States of America, how can we say that we accept a system that is not made in this country, and not even and in many of the cases the ballots aren't even tallied in this country? How can we say that here in this country that we accept that? The one thing, and for you all and for all your listeners, the one most precious thing that makes me the same as the wealthiest guy or gal on the planet, or the poorest person in America, what makes us equal? What makes us equal is when we go in to a voting booth and we close that curtain, or we go in there and we lean over to vote. My vote matters the same as the guy who's the richest guy, in America. It matters the exact same. That's where we are equal, and that's why this has to be fair and free. And it was not. And we probably, in fact, we know we have evidence of previous elections where this happened as well, but we're now focused on this one. And I'm going to tell you, we're not in this to lose. We are not in this to lose these battles. We're in this to win these battles. And I believe we're gonna. I believe we're gonna win. And I'm confident we are, because we have the right people, we have the right plan and strategy, and it's a little bit of direct and a little bit of indirect that we're taking, and people are talking all the time to each other. So I'm anxious, and you probably hear it in my voice that I'm a little anxious, because I just cannot believe the media and the censorship that is going on. Just look at what they do to the president of the United States of America. Look at what Twitter is doing to the President of the United States of America. I mean, it's infuriating to me. It's an abomination of the First Amendment, our freedom of speech. And frankly, for the President of the United States of America, the only means that he really has to be able to communicate is when he walks outside, or he goes in front of a group of people, or he walks outside and talks to the press, or he uses social media to communicate, because the media is not going to allow him to get his message out there. I mean, the major press, not press conference, but the hearing that they had in Pennsylvania the other day, and if anybody had a chance to watch it, I mean, it was an extraordinary hearing with politicians from Pennsylvania, senators on a panel, and the one senator that ran the panel for the state of Pennsylvania, that listened to the hearing, listened to a bunch of witnesses, listened to Rudy, listened to Jen Ellis and others on their team. The individual that ran it was a retired military colonel, and he's now a state senator in Pennsylvania. And he gave, at the very end of it, he gave a really good short summary speech. And it was heartwarming, because it was sort of a mom and apple pie that, hey, we can't allow this to happen in our country. We cannot, portray ourselves to the world as a third world nation. And it was a really, really good, closing speech. And what did Twitter do? Twitter took him offline immediately. They completely removed his Twitter account, so people couldn't follow this guy. I mean, it's just outrageous. It's outrageous. That's a social media company that is part of the public square. They are taking advantage of what they have been given, which is a real privilege, and they're abusing it. And so anyway, I could go on and on. I'm gonna stop and just see if you have any questions on anything, or you want to jump in on anything that I said. But I'm upset. I am determined. I'm going to be resilient, and I believe that I reflect millions and millions and millions of people across this country who feel the exact same way that I do.
Absolutely. Folks, we're being joined, if any of you new, joining us by General Michael Flynn. And General, you mentioned in your statement you put out the other day, thanking the President of the United States, you mentioned and you used the word coup. You mentioned we never again should allow this to happen to the American people. You used the word uprooted, undercut, usurped, or held hostage by a coup against our nation. Would you care to expand upon the word coup? Because I know General McInerney has used the word over and over, coup d'etat. I know you're not a man given to hyperbole, so I know that word did not make that into your statement you released for no reason. Would you care to expand upon the use of that word?
Sure. I mean, I think what we experienced over the last 4 years, and certainly in the late 2016, very late 2016 and early 2017 period, was a very strong effort to unseat a duly elected president and really try to remove Donald Trump by just political pressure, by technology pressure, by financial pressure early on in his tenure. Maybe to get him to just say, you know what, I'm not going to, I don't need this. I'm not going to put up with it, and walk away. I think that there was some sentiment. In fact, I know there was some sentiment to maybe he'll just, he's the guy from New York. He's not a politician. He'll just say, you know what, I don't need this stuff. I got better things to do, and leave. And thank God that he didn't. And that then lasted. When he didn't, that then continued. That effort continued to go after him in any way possible to remove him through some means, whether it was the fake Russiagate, Spygate, or whether it was the fake impeachment, or some of the other the kind of stuff that we're seeing with this COVID situation that we're having to deal with now. So that's the first phase, if you will. That was still that's something that's been going on for years. Now we're moving into something different. So and not different in terms of it. This is still a coup in progress, but now it's a little bit different. and it's sort of they upped their game. When they lost in 2016, I think that there was a decision, and I believe this, and that there was some type of decision to say we're not going to allow this to happen again. I mean, all you got to do is go back and listen to some of the comments this past summer from some of the senior people that were that are part of this Democratic Party, right? I mean, Hillary Clinton won, being, I think it was back in July or certainly mid-summer time frame, where she said, no matter what, Joe Biden should not concede. What are we talking about there? I mean, why would she say that in the middle of the summer, 3, maybe 4 months before an election? So one of the things that I do know from my experience, in the military and in different places around the world is when your enemy tells you that they're going to do something, you better pay attention to what they said. And you better have some plans, and you better have some ideas about how to deal with that if in fact that does come to fruition. Well, in this case, we have opposing camps in our opposing camps of our political parties, and we know that the political party on the left is really way over on the left. Now, I have a hard time calling someone a Democrat or the Democratic Party. That's a name only, folks, because it's really the Democratic Socialist Party of America that has, usurped and taken over that element, and they are a very loud voice. And so they're Katie bar the door assault on us, on our country and our way of life, and they're doing anything they can right now to try to pretend like, okay, nothing to see here, and Joe's going to be our next president here. And I'm just telling you, it's the level of fraudulent activity, definitely what I would describe as what we have seen and what has been reported to us as certainly criminal behavior. But that remains to be seen, because that's something that would have to be further investigated. But from the civil side of what I know people are involved in, there's definitely thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of ballots. So what happened in a very strategic way is that the electronic vote did not achieve the result that they needed on the 3rd of November, on Tuesday, the 3rd of November. The electronic vote did not achieve the result that they needed to be able to get them over the top and get the votes that they needed, because essentially the system was not, the systems were not set up in a way to get the vote count to where it needed to be, and at the same time kind of hiding how they were doing it, mixing numbers and such, and doing it in different ways in different states. So when that happened, they realized, okay, we have to stop. We have to shut down. Unheard of, unprecedented. And then Vice President Biden goes to bed. And they shut down, 5 states that night. Shut down, stopped. How do we ever allow that to happen? And then, of course, over the next couple of days, really from the 4th of November through the 7th of November, we start to see the mail-in ballot, the whole instance of mail-in ballot fraud. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of evidence and a whole bunch of people that have come forward. I mean, there's probably a couple of hundred, and I'm lowballing it, affidavits, people who have stood up and said, I'm sick of it. And these are Democrats and Republicans. We just got another piece tonight in another part of the country from a Democrat, a woman who's just absolutely sick and tired of what she saw, and she just wasn't sure what to do, and she finally said, I got to go forward, and I got to report this. I can't live with myself. That is what's happening with people who are feeling in their heart that sense of patriotism to still say, look, I don't want my country to turn into something else, because that's what these people want. They do not want our country to be the republic that it is. They want it to be something else and change it, as we heard one president say we want to fundamentally change America, and that's not what people want. People want to live the life that they have with the liberties and freedoms that we have under this great constitutional republic that we have. So that's sort of where we are, and that's what I mean by that. This is an ongoing effort. It's not to go take the Capitol, go take the radio station like we've done, in the past, in our own history years ago in Central America or the Caribbean or over in some of these other countries where we've participated or we've supported some of this stuff, or we certainly have watched it in other third world nations. Now it's happening in our country, and we cannot stand for it.
It's a new way of warfare, is it not, General? Is that what you're saying? This is kind of the new way of warfare, and it is cyber warfare. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's cyber. It's a combination of things. It's certainly information. It's information. I mean, it's how you leverage information, how you leverage, the whole thing about psychological operations is you have to make sure that you pick the target and then repetition with the message over and over and over and over has to occur. And it's the only way you can do that in a country our size with all of the ways that we communicate is you've got to basically get the media on your side. And look at how many that's taken some number of years, but I can't stand here and tell you that that's not the case, because it is. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows the quote unquote mainstream media, which is a pretty robust group of organizations, and that includes the tech companies, right? When I say tech companies, the social media tech companies, everything from Facebook to Instagram, of course, Twitter. I mentioned all of these things are just they are trying to control a narrative and tell the American people what they should know instead of allowing the American people information and letting each of us decide what's important or not.
So it's brainwashing. It's information warfare. It's brainwashing. It's psychological operation. It's those things that you studied and others study when they go through SEER school, correct?
Well, it's more than that. It's more than that. But yeah, it's the type of warfare. And in fact, if you study Chinese doctrine has 6 phases. The first 5 phases all have to do with information. The last part of it would be if those failed, or if you needed an additional, oomph, so to speak, you go to the gates, I say. That's when you may see something kinetic. But we're in this sort of period of information warfare it's unprecedented. I mean, again, I'm gonna stand in my box here and say the President of the United States of America is being censored by U.S. companies. I mean, think about that. I'm at a loss sometimes when I talk about it, and I talk about it, a couple of times a day to different people in different groups, and I'm trying to say, okay, at a certain point in time, we have to, that has to stop being allowed. When a company says what you just said, Mr. President, is not totally the truth, or there's fraud involved here, or fraud hasn't been proven. I mean, how dare they do that to the President of the United States? Because he's not going to get a fair shot, going out into the mainstream media crowd. Look at the interview that he did. I guess it was yesterday, where he had somebody's talking to the President of the United States in his office there, and he had to counsel the person. Don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to the President of the United States like that. I mean, it's like a bunch of school punks in a schoolyard. You can't have that. We can't have that in this country. I mean, debate and sharp questions, but not totally disrespect to not just the president. You may not like him, and that's fine. But he represents the presidency of the United States of America. He represents our flag, our Constitution, our country. And so actually, everything that we are experiencing right now actually is more than just an assault on President Trump. This is an assault on the American Republic, on this great country that we have, and people around the country. I know they're fed up with it, and they're not going to put up with it. And what they're waiting to see is they're waiting to see the outcome of their own elected officials in the states do their job, and just because CNN or Fox News or a governor or a secretary of state certify an election, if the state legislature has not certified the election, then it's not certified in a particular state. And if there's a challenge and there's a legitimate legal challenge, then they can't sit there and certify it while there's a legal challenge ongoing. It's just not the way it works. So the media is not going to cover any of that for you. The big media, they're just not going to cover it. And it's sad because they're trying to shove it down our throat. And the American public, they see right through it.
Well, and we're thankful you came to us, one of the alternative media sites, and these are all growing rapidly. And when they all are added together, you're reaching millions upon millions of people through the new media. I don't want to keep you, General, longer than you want to stay. You've been very generous. I would like to ask you just a couple more questions. We have people that I know are getting frustrated. They're pacing the floor. I mean, they're really is upsetting to them to see what the media is saying and how it's discouraging people. But you're telling them to hang in there, that this is going to all work out. I don't know if you can speak to it or not. If you cannot, just say so. But I know that Sidney Powell has been speaking about a lot of information that will be coming out. She wants to get it into court, not into the media to try it, but into the court. But can you or can you not speak to any of the hard evidence related to the server in Germany?
I don't want to speak to that right now.
Okay.
She's mentioned it, and she's actually has some really good filings. They just filed another amendment, I believe, in Georgia. So they filed in Georgia, they filed in Michigan just today, and probably within the last hour or two, they just filed another amendment to those in Georgia and back again in Michigan. And I think the next couple of priorities, are looking at some of these other states where there's some big challenges. But you really do have to go and dig into, and this is the challenge. You've got to go and dig into the filings instead of reading a soundbite here or there, because it's our life. This is our country. This is the time in our history where if we don't get this right, this country is done. It will be over, as we know it. And and as I stand here talking to you, I'm not standing here for me. I'm standing here for my children, my grandchildren, and frankly, the beacon of hope that we are as a country. And I would say, and I'll just wrap it up because I'm going to have to jump here. There are paths to victory. I mean, it's clear. And so key states are Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada. I mean, there's ways that the president can get to, and his team can get him to the margin that he needs to win without Pennsilvania. But he's going to win Pennsylvania too. So I'll leave you and I'll leave the audience with this, because I don't want my tone to be so strong where you sense a frustration. I'm really not frustrated. I'm determined, and I am going to remain resilient to this assault that we have ongoing by elements in our country that are trying to tell us, don't look here, everything will be just fine. It won't be. We cannot have this. We cannot allow this. We are going to we're going to get this straight. We're going to straighten it out. It's going to be done properly. It's going to be done legally. It's going to be done correctly, and it's going to be done with American patriots who love this country and who are fighting like warriors on the legal battleground for sure, with people like Sidney Powell, like Rudy Giuliani and his team, like people like Lynn Wood, who's fighting tooth and nail. And most people don't even know his case that he's got going on in Georgia just got picked up by the 11th Circuit down in Georgia, and that's a good sign, because that means that the one judge down there that thought he was going to dismiss his case, the 11th Circuit pulled it out of him and brought it up to their level, to an appeals level, because they saw that there was enough evidence. So I believe we're going to see some momentum changing here. There already is an undercurrent of momentum shifting for the president, and I believe that at the end of the day, we're going to find out that he won by a massive landslide, and he'll be inaugurated come this January.
General, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your service to our country, and you've honored us with your words tonight and your time, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us and speak to the American people. And not only are we live, but of course we will then put this out as a broadcast that will go far and wide. So you'll be encouraging an awful lot of people by taking the time tonight. So General, thank you for doing that.
Great, friend. And Tom, thank you for getting me the invite. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, General. General.